Hey guys, what's up? There have been a lot of rumors swirling around ever since it was announced that the Avengers sequel would be titled Avengers Age of Ultron, about how exactly Ultron's origin story will be told. Now, it's been confirmed that Hank Pym will not be a part of that origin story, which has left people with a lot of questions because in comic book lore, Hank Pym is the one who creates Ultron, and the characters are pretty synonymous with each other. So a lot of people were taken aback by that, and were left to wonder, okay, well then how will this version of Ultron be introduced to us? So for this video, I thought I'd give you my ideas on how I think Marvel will introduce Ultron in their Avengers sequel. Now, I've adopted what appears to be the popular stance in assuming that Tony Stark will be the one who creates Ultron in the movie, for a number of reasons. First off, the trailer that they showed at San Diego Comic-Con was just a teaser trailer, no actual footage from the movie, but rather voiceovers from the first Avengers movie over Tony Stark's mask being crushed and distorted, and eventually at the end showing Ultron's mask. And so I think that's probably the biggest hint that we have, that it's Tony Stark who creates Ultron. The second reason I think it's Tony Stark is because, as far as I know, he's the only other character who in some form of Marvel lore has created the character in the past. And that was in the animated movie Next Avengers Heroes of Tomorrow. It's not canon with Ultron's history, but it's an official Marvel product in which Tony Stark created Ultron, so he's, to my knowledge, is the only one who actually has besides Hank Pym. I also think that Tony Stark is one of the only characters who would have the intellect and capability of creating Ultron. It just makes sense, given that he is so technologically minded and has created all these suits before, that he would be able to create a robot in that same vein. There are other genius characters in the MCU, there's Bruce Banner, but I think that it most fits with what Tony Stark has shown us he's capable of before, in terms of his ability to create things of that sort. And lastly, I think it just makes the most sense story-wise for Tony Stark to create Ultron. Now, I know a lot of people are upset with that prospect, and they are determined that Hank Pym is the creator of Ultron. He needs to be in every way, shape, and form. I, for one, do not feel that way at all. I've never been in that group that feels that the MCU must stick to the comics in terms of everything they do, and not, surprise us with genuinely inventive, new, creative ways of introducing characters and telling stories. I've always thought that that's better, that they stay true to the characters, yet still surprise us in ways that we have not seen before, and mix things up in ways that make sense for the story they're trying to tell, and ways that make sense just cinematically. I mean, there are things in the comics that it just wouldn't make sense if they did in the movies, and clearly they have a plan with Hank Pym, with the Ant-Man movie coming after Avengers, and for whatever reason, that plan just didn't incorporate him into this movie. So I trust in Marvel, and I think Tony Stark inventing Ultron is the best way that they can go with it, if anyone besides Hank Pym were to create him. Now, I say this because Tony Stark, as you know, at the end of Iron Man 3, spoilers, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3, then I don't know why you're watching these videos, you can't really like the MCU that much. Tony Stark destroys all his armors. He decides that he can be Iron Man without actually wearing the suit, and a lot of people were confused by that as well, but I think that fits perfectly with him ultimately creating Ultron. As you know, Ultron is created with the intent of being a force for good. And so my guess is that Tony Stark decides, you know what, I'm sticking with it, I'm not going to be Iron Man, but I can create this sentient robot that can basically go out and do all the things that I would do as Iron Man, and this way I can stay home, I can be with Pepper, I can do whatever good I want to in the world, just as a normal human being, and this new robot can go and serve as a force for good. Clearly, Ultron doesn't end up being a force for good, and he does some bad stuff. A lot of people feel like Tony Stark has completely taken over the MCU. He's the only reason that people see these movies, and he's taken over the spotlight from other characters, especially Captain America, just in terms of being the leader of this group. But in having him create this monster and having it be his fault, whatever Ultron goes on and does, is an extremely interesting place to take this character, a dark place to take this character. Tony Stark is a dark character sometimes in the comics. They've said before they're not going to get into his alcoholism in the movies, but I think this is another way to kind of show a darker side of the character by putting him in that state that Hank Pym ultimately was in after he created Ultron in the comics, putting him in a state of depression, in a state of guilt and forcing him to take responsibility, and also, coincidentally, forcing him to get back to being Iron Man. I think that's the ultimate reason why I believe that he will be the creator of Ultron, because that, more than anything, would get him back in the Iron Man suit. He would have no choice but to go and try to stop this thing that he created. And so that's where I think it's headed. I think it'd be really interesting, a cool place to take the Tony Stark character that we haven't seen before. What do you guys think? Do you think that's what's going to happen? And if not, what do you think's going to happen? And more importantly, what do you want to happen? You know, I get the Hank Pym love. I love Hank Pym too. Personally, I don't think that I don't think Ultron is defined by being created by Hank Pym as a character. I think that he's his own being, and that story is a great story, but it's a story that can be kind of twisted, and it's a story that can be told in other ways without losing the essence of who that character is. If you think Hank Pym is the right person for it, let me know. But if you think that Tony Stark creating Ultron could be an interesting way to go, like I do, let me know that as well. And you know, clearly none of this is proven, so if you think that they're going a different route, you think someone else is going to create Ultron, or any other variation, let me know. Clearly it's going to be a very new, interesting take on the character. I, for one, am really excited to see what they do with it, and as I've said, I love Ultron, and I just cannot wait to see the sequel. So hit me up with your ideas, like the Facebook page if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me, the MCU, on Twitter. I'll put all the links down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll have another video for you guys on Monday. See you later.